Eden Lake won Best Horror at a film festival in 2009, and you've probably never heard about it. And you know, that's great for the filmmakers, except this movie is most known for making people refuse to ever watch it again. The ending is so bleak and disturbing that British critics got into actual arguments about class warfare, which, you know, fun marketing, right? This is the story of the most depressing and disturbing horror movie you've never even heard about. This is the story of Eden Lake. So, here's how this goes. Jenny's a nursery school teacher. Steve's her boyfriend. They're heading out to this remote lake in the English countryside for a weekend getaway. It's very cute. It's very romantic. Steve's got a ring in his pocket because he's planning to propose. So cute. And right there, right when you learn that detail, you know this is not going to end well, because no one in horror movies gets engaged at a lake without something going wrong. They drive out there. It's nice, sunny, and quiet. The kind of place where you would film a commercial for bottled water or allergy medication. On the way, they pass this kid just standing by the road. Steve tries to talk to him, asks if he needs help, and the kid just stares at them. He doesn't say anything, he just stares, which should have been a sign to turn around. But Steve's the kind of guy who thinks everything's going to be fine if you're just polite enough. So they get to the beach, set up their stuff. It is perfect. And then the annoying teenagers show up. There's like 6 or 7 of them. They're all on bikes. They've got a dog with them. A big one. They're blasting music, being loud, letting the dog run around. It's normal, annoying teenager stuff. And Steve, instead of just packing up and leaving, decides he's going to stick it out. Because in his mind, if he leaves, that is letting them win. That's being bullied off a public beach by some kids, so he stays. And Jenny goes along with it, even though you can tell she's uncomfortable and annoyed. They camp overnight, but when they wake up, their food's covered in bugs. So they head back to the car to drive to town for breakfast. Except they run over a broken bottle that the kids left behind. And now they've got a flat tire. Steve fixes it and they drive into town. While they're there, Steve spots the teenagers riding around, and instead of letting it go, he follows them. Just straight up follows a group of rowdy teenagers through town to, I don't know, have a word with them, citizen's arrest. It's not clear what his plan was, but he just wanted to see what was up. He eventually loses them and they end up at this diner. Steve asks the waitress if she's seen the kids and says that they've been hassling him and Jenny. The waitress laughs at first, but then Steve mentions wanting to tell their parents about the flat tire, and her whole mood changes. She gets defensive, says, "Not my kids," which is a weird thing to say about random teenagers unless they are, in fact, your kids. Steve then notices a bunch of bikes outside a house, gets out of the car, and Jenny's begging him not to. He goes up to the house, no one answers, so he just walks inside, which, to be fair, is insane behavior. He's inside someone's house, snooping around, and then he hears someone coming back. He barely escapes out a window before the guy sees him. They get back in the car and drive back to the lake. And this is where things start falling apart. Steve goes for a swim. Jenny falls asleep on the beach. When he comes back, their bag is gone. The one with the car keys, his phone, his wallet, everything. They walk back to where they parked and the car's gone too. So now they're stranded. No car, no phone, no way to call for help. They start walking back towards town, and then the car comes flying through the woods being driven by the teenagers. It almost hits them and stops right in front of them. Brett, the leader of the group, just smirks at them and then drives off. Night falls and Steve and Jenny are still walking through the woods, and they run into the teenagers again. And Steve, against every logical instinct, confronts them and demands his keys and his phone back. Brett plays dumb, says he doesn't know what Steve's talking about, and then Steve's phone rings in Brett's pocket. Steve then lunges at him. There's a scuffle and one of the kids pulls out a knife. Steve manages to grab it, but in the chaos, he ends up stabbing Brett's dog and kills it. You see, Brett loved that dog. You can see it on his face. For a second, it looked like he might actually let it go. He throws the keys on the ground, tells them to leave, and Steve and Jenny run back to the car, get it started, and try to drive away. But the road's steep, and they get stuck. The teenagers then catch up and start throwing rocks to smash the windshield and destroy the headlights. Steve gets the car moving again, but without the lights, he can't see and crashes into a tree. A branch then goes through the windshield and pins him against the seat. He tells Jenny to run, to get help, and she does. She then spends the night hiding in the woods. The next morning, she goes back to the car. Steve's gone, but there's a trail of blood leading into the trees, so she follows it. And this is the scene that people can't forget. She then finds Steve tied up with barbed wire in a clearing. The teenagers are standing around him. Brett's making each of them take turns cutting Steve with a knife, torturing him. And Paige, the only girl in the group, is filming the whole thing on her phone, just standing there, recording while Steve screams. Jenny's hiding, watching this happen. She then connects her GPS to Steve's phone using Bluetooth, trying to, send a signal or something, but Brett notices and realizes she's close and then sends his gang after her. She runs and they chase her on bikes, but it gives Steve enough time to free himself from the barbed wire. He starts running too, and Jenny manages to lose the teenagers, and eventually she finds Steve, but he's bleeding badly and barely conscious. She gets him to this old shack near the water, tries to bandage him up, and that's when she finds the ring in his pocket. He tells her he was going to propose. This gang shows up at the shack. They search it, but Jenny's hidden both of them under the floorboards in the water. The teenagers leave, and Jenny pulls Steve out, but he's too hurt to keep moving, so she leaves him hidden under some leaves and goes to try to find help. She's following the power lines, trying to get back to civilization, when she steps on a spike and screams and thinks the gang heard her. Then she runs into Adam, the kid from the beginning, the one who wouldn't talk, and she begs him to help her. Instead, he leads her straight to the gang, and they knock her out. When she wakes up, Steve's there, he's already dead, and Brett's pouring gasoline on both of them, getting ready to burn them. He forces Adam to light the match, makes him do it, and Paige is still filming. The ropes around Jenny burn through. She escapes. Brett loses it, covers Adam in gasoline, and threatens to light him on fire if Jenny doesn't come back, but she's already too far away. She can't hear him, so Brett lights the kid on fire anyways. Jenny then finds a trail map and uses it to navigate out of the woods. She hides in a dumpster to avoid Brett and another kid named Ricky, and arms herself with a piece of broken glass. Then she runs into Cooper, one of the younger kids in the gang. He looks scared, like he realized how bad this has gotten. For a second, it seems like he's going to help her. Before he can say anything, Jenny stabs him and kills him just out of panic. She holds him while he dies, and you can see on her face that she's horrified by what she just did. Paige then finds Cooper's body and starts screaming. Brett comes running, and another kid in the gang tries to call someone, which is probably the police, but Brett beats him and just starts hitting him. Paige then sees this and runs. Jenny finally makes it to the road, flags down a van, and gets inside and tells the driver she's been attacked. The driver says he's out looking for his brother. His brother's name is Ricky. The driver gets out of the van and leaves the keys in ignition. Jenny realizes that she has to get out of there and steals the van to drive towards town, but runs over Paige on the way. She crashes into someone's front yard, stumbles around to the back of the house, and there's a party going on. She walks in, covered in blood, begging for help. A woman sits her down, comforts her, and then Jenny starts looking around, listening to the phone calls, the conversations. She's in Brett's house. She asks to use the bathroom, and Brett's dad notices the van crash on the lawn. Jenny locks herself in the bathroom, finds a razor, but there's no way out. The door gets kicked open, Brett's there, his dad's there, and so are all the other parents, including the waitress from the diner. They all know what their kids did, but they don't care. They're gonna cover it up. Brett's dad sends him upstairs. Then he and the other parents push Jenny back into the bathroom. Brett sits in his room, deletes all of the videos from Paige's phone, and puts on Steve's sunglasses. All the while, downstairs, you can hear Jenny screaming. And that's it. That's the movie. Now, you're probably thinking that's grim, but lots of horror movies are grim. What makes this different from every other horror movie? Well, there's no monster here, no ghost, no demon possessing anyone, just teenagers on bikes and their terrible parents. And somehow, that's what makes it worse. Most horror movies work because they're not real. Vampires aren't real. Zombies aren't real. You can watch them, get scared, and then go to bed knowing that none of that's actually going to happen. Eden Lake doesn't give you that option. Everything in this movie could happen and actually has happened in some way or another throughout history. Someone who grew up in a rough neighborhood in England watched this and said they were chilled to the core because they could picture the local kids doing exactly what these kids do in the movie. That is not a compliment you want your horror film to get. Yeah, this seems accurate. It is a terrible review. It's effective, but that is a terrible review. The weapons aren't special either. It's bikes, knives you can buy at any store, broken bottles, a dog. Half this movie happens in broad daylight, which should make it less scary, but it doesn't. It just makes it feel more real because bad things don't wait until it's dark and foggy. They just happen. And the violence isn't actionable or fun. There's no cool camera work making it stylish. It's just ugly and drawn out and uncomfortable. When Steve gets tortured with the barbed wire, it looks like it hurts because, newsflash, it would hurt. The film's not trying to make violence look cool. It's showing you what violence actually is, which is just people hurting each other for no damn good reason. That's what sticks with you. Not jump scares, not some creature design, just the knowledge that a weekend trip to a lake could end with you tied up in the woods while someone films your death on their phone, which is a fun thought to carry around. But realism alone doesn't explain why so many people refuse to rewatch it. And that's because most horror movies give you breaks. Scare, relief, scare, relief. You get a breather between the bad parts. Time to calm down. Eden Lake looked at that formula and decided it was for cowards. Once the violence starts, it doesn't stop. It just keeps escalating. There's no funny side character to break the tension, no moment where the couple sits down and has a normal conversation, no false ending where you think that they're safe. It's just bad thing after bad thing until the credits roll. The movie's only 91 minutes long, but people report it feeling way longer. Not because it's boring, but because your body is just sitting there in fight or flight mode for an hour and a half with nowhere to go. The Guardian called it tight as a drum, which means there is no slack anywhere. Every scene is pushing you towards something worse, and the torture scenes don't cut away. They stay on it. The barbed wire scene where the teenagers take turns stabbing Steve goes on forever. You keep thinking it's going to end, that the camera's gonna pan away at the last second, but it doesn't. Paige just keeps filming and Brett keeps smiling. It continues. People have said that they had to pause the movie because they were too stressed to keep watching. Not bored, but stressed. Their nervous system was filing a complaint. That is not normal. Most horror movies don't require you to take breaks to catch your breath. Even the moments that should be quiet aren't. When Jenny's hiding in the woods overnight, you're just waiting for something to find her. When she's trying to help Steve in the shack, you're waiting for the gang to show up. There is no safety, not even for a minute. It is exhausting, and that is done on purpose. And then you get to the ending, which made people genuinely angry. And I love this ending. Here's what happens in most normal horror movies. The bad guy loses, the good guys win, or at least one of them survives. Justice gets served. Maybe it's messy, but there's some kind of payoff. You earned it by sitting through all of that terror. Eden Lake says no, none of that happens, because this isn't horror based in fiction. This is horror based in reality. Brett walks free and keeps Steve's sunglasses as a trophy, deletes the evidence, and goes to his room while his parents beat Jenny to death in the bathroom downstairs. The gang gets away with everything. There is no last-minute rescue, no police showing up, no moment where Jenny gets revenge. She just dies screaming in a stranger's bathroom while a party happens outside. That is it. That is the ending. And most people hated it. Not because it was bad, but because it worked exactly how it was supposed to. The Guardian said the film withholds the longed-for redemptions and revenges, which is a fancy way of saying it refuses to make you feel better. Most horror movies eventually give you something, a kill that you can cheer for, a moment where the villain gets what's coming. This movie gives you nothing. Brett doesn't even feel bad. He is not conflicted. He tortured people, burned a child alive, and he is fine. He puts on stolen sunglasses and moves on with his life. His parents are going to make sure nothing happens to him. The system that's supposed to protect people just protects the people who did the hurting. And that's why people finish this movie and feel hollow. It's not cathartic. It is not satisfying. It just ends with evil winning and good people dead. You don't walk away feeling you watched a clever story. You walk away feeling like you witnessed something genuinely unfair, which is probably the most honest and scariest thing a horror movie can do to you. Though the bleakness isn't exactly why a bunch of critics started actual fights about it. Eden Lake came out in 2008, right when British newspapers were losing their minds about hoodie horror and violent youth running wild. The film didn't just tap into that panic, it weaponized it. You've got a middle-class couple with a nice car and good manners getting tortured by working-class teenagers from a poor town. And the movie doesn't hide that. Steve talks about his job and money. Jenny's a teacher. They're polite, educated. Brett and his friends live in a dead-end town where everyone's angry and no one's going anywhere. The parents are worse than the kids. British critics saw this and immediately started arguing because, of course they did. They're British and they're critics. What else are they going to do? Owen Jones, who's a critic, wrote in his book about class that Eden Lake suggests the middle classes could no longer live alongside the lower orders, which is a very dramatic way to say that the movie makes poor people look bad. The Sun newspaper said it was pushing the idea that all working class people are thugs. The Telegraph called it ugly, instead expresses fear and loathing of ordinary English people. So that's fun. Your horror movie's getting accused of classism. But here's the thing. The movie does show where the kids learned all of it from. Brett's dad is just as violent as Brett. The waitress covers for her kids. All the parents at that party know what happened, and they're fine with it. The film is showing a cycle. Bad parents make bad kids who become bad parents. No one in that town's getting out. They've just accepted that this is how things are. Some people said the movie was social commentary. Others said it was just mean. And the answer is probably both. Because you could make a point about violence and poverty without making every poor person in your movie a murderous psychopath. But Eden Lake went ahead and did it anyway. And what do I think? Well, I think this movie is an actual diamond in the rough. And I think the reason that it causes such a visceral reaction of disgust out of its viewers is why it is so good. I love horror movies that don't end on a good note. I think it's real. I think it's something that the West doesn't often love to see. It's very common in other cultures with their horror movies to be end on a lot more bleak note. And I love that the West is taking more risks like this in movies like this. But that's why all of the critics and all the newspapers are like, oh, this is horrible, it's creating psychopaths, is because it's not common. But I think this movie is a great example of how to tell a story like this properly. Because not all stories need to have a good ending. Because in real life, most stories don't have a good ending. You can criticize this movie all you want. I love this movie. It made me feel like shit, and that's a good thing. Which brings us back to the original question about whether this movie is actually objectively good. Eden Lake won Best Horror Film in 2009. It launched Michael Fassbender's career, made Jack O'Connell famous, and got great reviews from critics who could actually stomach it, and traumatized everyone who watched it, which is not bad for a 91-minute movie about teenagers with bikes. Everything we've talked about is why it works. It's realistic, so you can't distance yourself from it. It is relentless, so you never get a break. The ending is bleak, so you don't get any comfort. And it touched a nerve about class that people are still arguing about today. That's a lot for one film to accomplish. But it's also why you probably haven't heard of it and most people haven't seen it. Eden Lake didn't get a big release. It came out in the UK, did okay, and then just existed. You have to go looking for it in order to see it. And even when you find it, you will immediately see comments saying, don't watch this, or I'm never going to watch this again, which is honest, but it's not great marketing for more people to see this movie. The movie's reputation is that it's brilliant, but that you should never see it. People respect it and talk about how well made it is, how intense the performances are, how good the acting is, how tight the directing is, and then they warn you that it'll ruin your day, so you should not watch it. But I am here to tell you that you should let your day get ruined. You should watch this movie. If you love horror, you should give this at least a try. If you don't want to watch it, turn it off halfway through. But this is one of the greatest horror movies ever made, and I only watched this last year for the first time, and I still think it is better than most stuff that comes out today. Literally 15 years later, people still finish this film and immediately text their friends to not watch it. They don't say that it was bad or skip it. They say, I am warning you, don't watch it, which is probably the most honest recommendation a horror movie can get. It does exactly what it sets out to do. Scares you, upsets you, and stays with you. Whether that makes it good or cruel depends on who you ask. And if you ask me, I think this is an experience that if you are a horror fan, you need to have. Look, if you think this movie is bad, you're like, why is this guy recommending this movie? Why are you watching my channel? You want me to agree with everything you think? That's not a good idea. I'm supposed to suggest you guys new horror movies that you haven't seen before. If this movie is really bad to you and it upsets you, it's not that serious at the end of the day. It is just an opinion. It is my opinion. Doesn't mean that any one of us is right or wrong, but I think you should at least try it. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos just like it, make sure to give it a like and comment down below what other movies you'd like to see me talk about that aren't well known, as I'm trying to branch out my content more into more content like this, talking about very specific movies instead of just a bunch of them all together. But I want to know if people want to see those. And if you want to make sure you never miss an upload from me, you should hit the subscribe button so you stay updated on all of my upcoming videos. And hit the hype button, as it really helps YouTubers like me get our videos out to a new audience. And if you want to watch another one of my videos, then you should watch the one on screen right now.